Okay, this is day 3, putting it all together. Essentially what this day is taking what we did on the first day and on the second day and putting it all together into one. So both writing the formula and then balancing it after you're done. So the goals from this part is that you write out the formula equations from the word equations like we did in day 1, and then you balance those equations you've written out like we did in day 2. So we're putting it all together. For example, this one says write the corresponding formula equation and balance. So we have magnesium chlorate going to magnesium chloride and oxygen. First step is ask, is it an element or a compound? Magnesium chlorate is a compound. Then you need to ask, is it ionic or molecular? Magnesium's a metal, so it's ionic. It has a charge of +2. Chlorate is a polyatomic ion with a charge of -1. So we'll put those together like this, 2 chlorates for every 1 magnesium. Then magnesium chloride is a compound. It is an ionic compound. Magnesium has a charge of +2, chloride has a charge of -1, so we'll put those together like that. Finally, for oxygen, is it an element or a compound? It's an element. Is it monoatomic or diatomic? It's diatomic, so there's the formula. That's writing the formula equation. The next step is to balance it. So we'll start by writing out all of the things that are present in the reaction. We can't keep the chlorate ion together because it does not appear on both sides, so we have to separate the chlorine and oxygen. Then we need to go through, there's 1 magnesium. This 2 on the very outside of the expression goes to everything on the inside of the expression, so there's 2 chlorines. And then there are 2 times 3 oxygens, so there's 6 oxygens on the reactant side. Looking on the other side, to the product side, we have 1 magnesium, 2 chlorines, and 2 oxygens. We will start at the first one that is not even, so that's the oxygens. If I put a coefficient of 3 in front of this oxygen, now I can update my total to 6, and that equation's balanced, so that one is done. Let's look at another example. We have potassium carbonate and chromium 3 nitrate yielding potassium nitrate and chromium 3 carbonate. Starting with the beginning, is it an element or a compound? It's a compound. Potassium is a metal, so we need to balance the charges. Potassium has a charge of +1 and carbonate has a charge of -2, so it looks like that. Chromium 3 nitrate is another compound. Chromium is a metal and it is an ionic compound, so we have to balance the charges. We know that chromium has a +3 charge because of the 3 Roman numeral next to the word. Nitrate has a -1 charge, so we need 3 of them to balance it out. Potassium nitrate is another compound. Potassium is a metal, so it's an ionic compound. Both of those have a charge of 1, so they can balance each other out like that. Finally, chromium 3 carbonate. Remember that the 3 Roman numerals means chromium has a +3 charge, carbonate has a -2 charge, so you have to flop the numbers so that both of those go to 6. Next up, we need to balance it. For this one, we can keep the polyatomic ions together because they appear on both sides of the equation. Next step is to go through and count. There's 2 potassiums, 1 carbonate, 1 chromate, and 3 nitrates on the reactant side. There's 1 potassium, 3 carbonates, 2 chromiums, and 1 nitrate on the reactant side. We'll start at the top. We have 2 potassiums on the reactant side, 1 potassium on the product side, so I'm going to add a coefficient of 2 in front of this one. Then I need to update my tallies. I now have 2 potassiums, but I also have 2 nitrates. Moving down to the carbonates, I'm going to put a 3 in front of this one. That will give me 3 carbonates, but I also need to update my potassium numbers now. I have 3 times 2 potassiums, so now I have 6 potassiums. Going down even farther, I'm going to put a 2 in front of the chromium here. That gives me 2 chromiums, but it also changes my number of nitrates, so now I have 2 times 3 nitrates, or 6. I'm going to go back up to the top now. I'm going to have to adjust those numbers because my potassium is not right. I need 6 potassiums on the product side, and right now I only have 2. So I'm going to change that coefficient to 6. That gives me 6 potassiums, and it also changes my nitrates to 6, and we're balanced. So those are the 2 examples for day 3. Worksheet day 3 goes through this, so that's what you should be working on now.